We keep hearing about office attendance in the CBD being at an all-time low. Many employees, obviously, after the pandemic, have preferred to work from home. I just spoke to a friend the other night at a function who is a lawyer, a partner in a law firm here in Brisbane in the city. They take up 3 floors in one of the central buildings. And he said it's just really hard to get everybody back into the workspace because we've all figured out how to do it in another location. And I said, is there one day that you all come together? And he said, no, not really. It means that employers are desperate and they're turning now to desperate measures, trying to coax workers back into the office. So much so that some are offering free breakfast, free lunch, they're having parties, they're offering free gym memberships, free parking, free childcare, health and well-being initiatives, free vaccinations. And then one lot has just taken it all up a notch. It's a company in the UK. In an attempt to make workmates bond, I don't know what company this is, but in an attempt to make their workmates bond, they're offering Naked Fridays. You'd better be careful what you look at when you're making your morning coffee in the communal office, I would imagine, or during monthly meetings at a board-long table. I wouldn't know if there's enough sanitizer in the world to be able to take into an office. There could be some unintended consequences of that exposure. Kim Seeling Smith is a future of work expert and she's from Media Stable. She's joining me now on the line to talk about these unique office trends. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Sophie. You have to love the irony. You can't stare at people in Sydney, but they let it all hang out in the UK, apparently.
I'm intrigued. I know that this is not the focus of what you and I are speaking about today, but to see this on the list of potential incentives, I'm not sure whether it would work as an incentive for me here at 4BC. Not going to lie.
Definitely wouldn't work for me, let me tell you.
Who is this business and what are they thinking there? It's literally go to work and you don't have to wear clothes?
Yeah, apparently. So I was not involved in this initiative. Let me just put that right out there. But apparently there's a company in the UK, it's a marketing company, and they hired a psychologist to build team morale. And this psychologist said, well, let's just strip down and let it all hang out. That's sure to build morale. I'm not sure if it actually built morale. It did build quite the public presence, the PR presence for this company. But it is an extreme example of what companies are doing to try to not only get their workers back into the office, but to hang on to them full stop.
Well, I would love to know what are some of the initiatives that you have seen in that attempt that are actually working. Are there some that are proving more successful than others?
Well, yes and no. So companies and managers are literally twisting themselves into knots, trying to figure out how to bribe, what to give their staff to keep them, to keep them from walking out the door or to bring them back into the office. And, the simple truth is that they're looking at the wrong things. Now, don't get me wrong. I am I love a good perk just like any other woman or man or non-binary. I love a good perk, but it is not what drives people to want to work for companies. It's not what drives people to want to come back into the office. The research is really clear. What people want post-pandemic is, first of all, they want a feeling of being valued. And yeah, it might be nice to have a party and it might be nice to have free food in the office, but it does not go as far as a simple thank you or job well done from manager to direct report. So that's what everybody is craving right now, is the feeling of being valued. The second thing, and I do a lot of research in this topic, the second thing that people look for is the opportunity to learn, grow, and develop. Now, sometimes that means career growth, moving from one job to the next, but sometimes that just means I want to learn something. Yeah, I want to learn something. I want some variety. And then the third, which is, rising with a bullet, is the ability to work for a company that's making an impact on the world. I don't know if you've noticed, but this old world of ours has a few challenges going on right now. And people want to align themselves with an organization that's making a positive difference. That's what will keep your people in their seats, and that's what will bring them back to the office.
Yeah, and look, all of those things sound really valid, and I can understand why that's what you're seeing in the data the research that you're doing. But when it comes to the physical sense of working and doing that for those companies that fill your cup in all of those ways, or physically having to get out of bed in the morning, put on clothes, figure out how you're going to get into the office, and in most cases we're talking about CBDs that are just not seeing the uptake. You would wonder how this work from home culture that we've now really found ourselves being embedded in is going to be completely unavoidable moving forward, because with the rise of, the cost of everything, even from the point of what it costs you to get into work, when you have to go and buy a cup of coffee, then also get your lunch and do all of those things, if you can show that you are just as productive or more productive in another location, this is going to be something that we will continue to talk about for some time.
Oh, without a doubt. And we're finally recognizing that over the last year, since the end of the last lockdowns in Victoria and New South Wales and, and Queensland, over the last year, the number one topic has been, how do we get people back into the office? But I was interested to read that just last week, the Australian Human Resources Institute said that 40% of Aussie companies have reconciled themselves to the fact that, like they say in Star Trek, resistance is futile. So now the question is, how do we continue to build culture in this hybrid world of ours? And what's interesting, Sophie, is that there are two conflicting needs at play when managers or organizations try to get their people back into the office. One of the things that we're seeing is this need for agency, control, and choice. People have felt like the world has been out of control, that they've had no control over the last 2.5 years, and they want control. So if you require them to come back into the office, they're going to say, no way, I want to control my own destiny. Yeah. But the second need, and probably the stronger need, is the need for connection. So this 40% of companies who just say work from wherever you want to work, they will ironically probably see more people coming back to the office voluntarily because they want to connect with their coworkers.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you get the culture that comes along with that. What are you creating, and are you all working towards common goals, and how are you going to manage to do that? I think that, what you were saying there makes perfect sense to any of us who don't work in an office, because you can sense all of these things unfolding, how this works moving forward. And I even said to my friend, the lawyer that I mentioned, I said to him, the irony of that is that they're talking about now even perhaps reducing the amount of office space that they have, because they're now paying for office space that isn't being used. And I said to him, the irony that we are also faced with such a housing crisis at the moment, and yet we've got all of these buildings that are sitting largely vacant because they're not being used as office space anymore. You have to wonder whether or not cogs are turning to see if we can be a little bit smarter with the way we're using that physical space as well.
And that is a discussion that companies are having. As soon as we went into our first lockdown in March of 2020, one of the first things I said is, I am so glad that I'm not invested in commercial office space, because this is going to change everything. And we're seeing it now. We're seeing companies rethink the amount of space that they have and how they use the space that they have.
Well, we will all be coming into the office tomorrow, Kim, because this is where we do our best work, and I can guarantee that everybody at 4BC will be fully clothed.